كتاب مدرسة العظمة.
He is a New York Times bestselling author, two-time All-American athlete, keynote speaker, and entrepreneur. The School of Greatness shares inspiring interviews from the most successful people on the planet. World-renowned leaders in business, entertainment, sports, science, health, and literature to inspire you to unlock your inner greatness and live your best life. Ladies and gentlemen,
let me hear an applause for Lewis Howes, the author of The School of Greatness.
Lewis Howes, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? There's a lively crowd. Can you guys hear me okay? I know it's later in the day, so I want you to do something for me really quick. If you can, just go ahead and stand up and put your hands in the air and stretch, or stretch them out, or stretch them back. Lean over a little bit, move your body. Move your body a little bit, just stretch it up, whatever makes you feel more awake, because it's the end of the day. We had 2 big, incredible days, lots of amazing speakers, lots of value, and actually stay standing for 30 seconds. One more stretch, oh yeah, feels good. And actually do me a favor, I would like you to turn to the person next to you as you're standing up if you can, or find someone close to you, and really quickly share one thing you're most grateful for today in your life. Just one thing in your life with the person next to you, really quickly. Take 30 seconds. And when you're done, you can take a seat. These guys are really grateful. They're still going. They're just sharing everything they're grateful for. If you want to keep standing and talking about it, then we don't need to be here. That's good, because gratitude is the key. So it's so good to see you guys. Again, thank you, everyone, for having me out here, and thank you, everyone, for showing up. I know it's the end of the day, so I appreciate you all very much. I want to talk about some lessons that I've learned that I think have been extremely valuable for me, and hopefully they will be valuable for you as well. And I'm just, again, very grateful to be here. My name is Lewis Howes. Thank you to everyone who came out and said hello and took a photo and got a copy of the book, and I'll be around a little bit afterwards as well to say hi. I want to share a quick story about what I've learned, and hopefully it can support you with what you're going through right now, or just help you reflect on some of the things in your life. It's funny, as I was writing people's names out on the book signing about 30 minutes ago, I was writing people's names, and still today, at 38 years old, I feel like I struggle with dyslexia. Someone will tell me their name, and I say, how do you spell that? They'll actually tell me, and as I'm writing the letters, I still get it mixed up. And this was an insecurity for me pretty much most of my life, and especially in school. I got really picked on just because I couldn't read and write. It was challenging to stand in front of an audience and speak. I remember in class, I don't know if they do this in this part of the world, but in America, they torture kids. When you're in school, they torture you. They say, okay, we want you to open the book and stand in front of the class and read aloud. I don't know if that happens here. And for a kid, they do. That happens here. So they torture you in this part of the world as well. Okay, good to know. We're not the only ones who deal with this, right? And so I would stand in front of the class, and I would stutter and mumble because I couldn't read the most basic words. And so when I got into the 8th grade, they would test all of us on our reading capabilities, and I had a 2nd grade reading level in 8th grade. So this made me feel very insecure, like I wasn't enough, like I'll never be smart enough, I'll never be good enough, I'll never amount to anything. I was in the special needs classes, so they would put me in special classes with 1 or 2 other kids who struggled with learning disabilities like myself, and that would happen, and I would get made fun of. Kids would walk by the class and just make fun of me. So this was an early challenge, obstacle, that I thought I would never amount to anything in school or in life, let alone business. Why would anyone ever give me money if I can't read and write? This was a belief that I created around myself. Fast forward, I've been very fortunate to accomplish a lot of different things in my life, and I'm just going to share briefly, not to really brag or anything, but just to show that for me, my younger self, when I look back, I realized that no matter what challenge or pain or insecurity I felt, it's cool to see that you can overcome certain things and still accomplish dreams in your life. And so for me, it was really cool to watch myself overcome year after year the inadequacies that I felt I had in the world, the inabilities that I felt I had. And so this was, I was a multiple sport All-American, one of the only two-sport All-Americans from two different schools in America ever. I broke a world record in football that was stood for 10 years. You may not understand American football here, but I broke a record for the most receiving yards in a game. And then I went on to write a New York Times bestselling book. And in high school, no one thought I would ever amount to anything in books because I couldn't read the books. And then I eventually wrote a New York Times bestseller, and I host one of the biggest shows in the world called the School of Greatness. And this is where I get to interview some of the most inspiring people and ask them questions and make a fool of myself and say, I don't know the answers. Please tell me so I can continue to improve my life. And I think having a beginner's mind throughout my entire life until 38 has really supported me in my growth. And it's been an amazing journey. So how did I get here, though? Because a lot had to happen for me in order to feel confident enough to get to this position. And I feel like I'm still just getting started. I feel like I'm still learning so much. I feel like I'm just beginning my journey. I feel like there's so much I haven't yet discovered. So I want to talk about how I got here and how I think, as I was talking to a lot of people out there at the book signing, I was hearing about the challenges, the obstacles in the way for a lot of people. And if we can answer these three questions, it's incredible what we can create in our lives with the answers to these three questions. And these three questions are, what do I want? What is my fear? And what do I need to heal? So what do I want? What is my fear? And what do I need to heal? I wish I would have knew these questions and answers earlier in my life. I wish I knew the answers because I was seeking for so many years to try to feel happy, to feel worthy, to feel enough, to impress people, to look good, to do all these things to feel like I was enough. And if I had just knew the answers to these questions, it would have saved me a lot of time, a lot of pain, a lot of frustration, a lot of heartache if I would have known the answers to these questions. So I encourage you to reflect on this for a moment. What do I want? What is my fear? And what do I need to heal? We'll talk about this towards the end because I'm going to ask you guys to share with me your answers. I'm going to ask you to send me a message later with your responses to those questions. So please write them down or have them in mind. For a long time, I've really believed that self-doubt is the killer of big dreams. When I interview the most successful athletes in the world, I think I've interviewed 3 of the 50 wealthiest billionaires in the world, the top therapists and relationship experts, the ones who have accomplished on the outside what seems to be a lot for most of the world. When I've interviewed them, there's one thing that they don't have, and that's self-doubt. The people who aren't chasing their dreams, who aren't going after what they want, this is the common theme, self-doubt. And there are 3 primary causes of self-doubt. So I want you guys to reflect. I'm going to do a little exercise with you right now. There are 3 primary causes of self-doubt. And the first one is failure. We fear, in general, a lot of people fear failure. Now, just a show of hands, how many of you have ever in your life, maybe you're not right now, but some point in your life, you've been afraid to fail? Just a show of hands, you've been afraid to fail. Okay, so it looks like roughly 70-80% of the room, a fear of failure. For me, failure was never really a part of my worries or insecurities because as an athlete growing up, I had some incredible coaches. And these athletes wanted you to fail on a daily basis in practice. It was all about the mistakes. Okay, how can you learn from mistakes to improve to get closer to the goal? And I love that there's a meme online. I love this meme, which I think as adults we forget. How many of you have kids? Anyone have kids? Show of hands. About 30% of the room. Most of us are not wanting kids, I guess, or we don't have them yet. Okay, I'm not there. But there's a meme online that I love. It's of a kid who's learning to walk. And he's kind of like wobbling and stumbling, and he's learning to walk. And at the top of the meme, it says, children fall 1,000 times in their journey to learning to walk. And it never says, the baby never says, maybe this walking thing isn't for me. The baby doesn't fall 10 times, 100 times, 500 times, and then say, you know what, I'm just gonna crawl. Like, I'm just gonna grow up crawling my whole life, you know? I'm just gonna crawl, I'm just gonna squat and just like figure it out on my hands and knees. It doesn't think that. You know, we didn't think that way. But for whatever reason, we started to think that way. And a lot of us who are afraid of failure are afraid for whatever reason. But you didn't believe that when you were learning how to walk. So that's the first one, the fear of failure. The next one, the fear of success. Success, I was talking to Hala. Her name was Hala. She wanted me to emphasize, because I was asking, is it Hala or Hala? And so she wanted me to emphasize Hala. She was interviewing me out there, and I said, what is your fear? Is it the failure or is it success? And she said, 100% success. And I said, that's interesting. Now let me show of hands, how many of you are afraid of success? Of opportunities coming your way, of you make a lot of money, of the weight of the success. How many are afraid? Not as many in here are afraid of success. Looks like 15% of the room. 20% maybe. A couple stragglers were afraid of putting their hand up, yes. And I said, why are you afraid of success? And she said, the pressure that comes with success. Imagine having a dream, an idea so big and putting it out there and it actually works. Like imagine. And then people require you to be responsible and show up consistently. And you got to learn how to continue to make money to pay the team you have or whatever it is that success comes with it. That's why you see a lot of child actors or child athletes who become successful. They don't know how to handle the weight and the pressure. The attention is a lot. And for me as a kid who had a big ego as a kid, I just wanted to be successful because I thought success meant people loving me. I thought it meant people accepting me if I was successful. So I was like, I'm not afraid to fail because I know that's the key and the pathway to success. I knew that's the process to get there. My fear was something else, and it's fear of judgment. The fear of judgment, the fear of people's opinions about me. So it wasn't failure, it wasn't success, it was what are people going to think about me? How many of you have ever been afraid of what people think about you, what they say about you behind your back or publicly, or the comments they leave about you? And it's a lot of people. Raise your hands really quick one more time. I know we're tired here. I'm trying to get you guys to do some exercises in the afternoon, you know? So it looks like 70% of the room is afraid of the judgment. And at the core of this is I'm not enough. I'm not enough is kind of at the core of any one of these fears. For me, I never felt enough, and there was a lot of confirmation of why I wasn't good enough just throughout my entire childhood. I'll share a little bit more about that. And I want you to ask yourself, which parts of this hold you back the most? Is it the fear of failure? Is it the fear of success? Or the fear of people's opinions? Because at the core of any one of those fears is the thing that's holding us back. And I know Vishen just did a great job walking you guys through a visualization and that meditation process, which I think is beautiful. And it's something that I really focus on as well. But when you can identify first one of the three biggest fears, that's when you can start to do the work to take action to overcome those fears. So that's what I want you guys to focus on first. I mentioned that, feeling very insecure and feeling inadequate my entire childhood, from the bullying, from the special needs classes, from having dyslexia, that later in my life, I remember just thinking, if I want to accomplish any dream, I need to figure out how to overcome this fear, this insecurity, because it was crippling me. I don't know if you've ever had a fear that was crippling, like you couldn't speak in front of people, you couldn't take action, and the biggest insecurity for me was just looking like a fool in front of a live audience. I could not stand in front of a classroom of my peers and read aloud how am I ever going to stand in front of an audience in my life unless I figure out how to overcome this insecurity, this fear? And so I decided later in life that I need to learn how to overcome this. And one of the ways was doing this was I found a mentor who was a professional speaker. And I asked him, what's the key? He said, you need to join a speaking class, and you need to go every week. He said, there's a thing called Toastmasters. I don't know if they have it in this part of the world, Toastmasters. They do? How many of you have been to Toastmasters or know about it? Okay. I'm a 23-year-old bum. I had just finished playing professional football, American football in the USA. I wasn't even that good. I got injured, and I never made it to the level of my dreams with football. And so I was on my sister's couch with a full arm cast on like this for 6 months, from the cast from here to here. And for 6 months living off my sister, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And I decided, after meeting this mentor, he said, you need to join Toastmasters in order to help you overcome this fear, this insecurity of speaking. And I was just like, there's no way I'll ever be able to do this, but I will show up every single week and I'll try it for a year. I'll try this speaking thing for a year, but I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'm going to look so bad. I'm going to make a fool of myself because I've never been able to do this. And it was the most incredible thing because I remember the first time I went, there's a thing, you guys, how many have been to Toastmasters again? There's a speech you give called the icebreaker. I don't know if you guys remember this. You give a 5-minute speech your first time going to Toastmasters. I spent 2 weeks preparing for this 5-minute speech. I wrote it out word for word, and I had it, had my pages in front of me, and I was like, what am I going to talk about for 5 minutes? My life is not that interesting. And I get up there, and there's a podium. I get up to the podium. I have a cast on, so I'm walking up like this, and I have a cut-off shirt. And I walk up there, and there's a room full of 30 professionals in suits. I have a t-shirt on because nothing fits over the cast on my arm. And I bring up my pages, and I look down here, and I literally go like this, word for word, and start saying, hello, my name is Lewis Howes. I'm from Ohio. I flipped the page, and for 5 minutes, trembling and sweating, trying to just get through one speech for 5 minutes. There was not one point where I looked up. Nothing. I literally was focused down the entire time, telling a part of my life story for 5 minutes. Thinking it felt like 5 hours. I don't know if you've ever done this where you had something in a short amount of time. It felt like it was happening. It took forever. And I remember in Toastmasters, for those who've never been, it's supposed to be a safe environment where they give you positive feedback. There wasn't much positive feedback they could give me, right? But they have to. They have to be nice to you. They can't give you negative criticism. That's the whole purpose of going. People are laughing because they know they've been there. They've been through this process. And so there's people in the room like this, and they have these reviews, and they give you the feedback, right? They have these papers, and they give you the feedback. And they have to be nice to you, right? And so you stand up there, and you just take feedback. You just take the criticism. And one person's like, Lewis, great job finishing. Like, you made it up here. Great job. Next person, just, you look good. You look good up there. Like, keep going. And then they have to say something like, okay, here's what you can do better. Next time, Lewis, like, just look up one time. Just look at one, just pause and look up. So what did I do the next speech? A month later, I literally wrote in, pause and look up. Pause. So I'm up on the podium, I do the speech, pause and look, okay. Right? It's like a moment of, I'm doing what they told me to do, I'm practicing it. And I went there and I gave a speech every month for the year. And I started behind the podium, and then eventually got away from the podium and held my speech in front of me, and then eventually without paper, with just note cards, and eventually no note cards. By the end of the year, I had a lot more confidence. And the moral of the story for me was learning that I needed to go all in on the fear until the fear disappeared. And it's really hard to think your way out of a fear. It's really hard to analyze and imagine not being afraid in front of an audience, if that's a fear, an insecurity of yours. And for me, the only way of overcoming it was actually acting on it and being consistent in the action of overcoming it. And that's something I've learned. And so, as I was trying to figure out who I was in the world, as I was trying to figure out my identity, because I went from being a professional athlete to now living on my sister's couch, speaking in front of people month after month, trying to learn how to overcome this fear, and figuring out who am I in this world? How am I going to make money to survive? Am I ever going to live on my own? Or am I always going to live off my sister? For a year and a half, I lived in my sister's place, and she gave me one of the greatest gifts that shaped my life. She gave me accountability. After a year and a half of mooching off my sister, eating her food, her cleaning up after me, not paying rent, she said, "Louis, I love you, but you either got to start paying rent or you got to get the heck out of here." And so what does any younger child do with 3 older siblings? I called my older brother and said, "Can I stay with you for free?" And he gave me a gift of accountability. He said, "Louis, I would, but my wife, she's going to need you to pay. You got to pay $250 a month." And at the time, I was like, $250 a month? How am I going to make this money? But it was one of the greatest gifts because it forced me to come out of my shell. It forced me to overcome more insecurities. It forced me to be creative, to think, to add value. It forced me to stop feeling sorry for myself and to stop being lazy. And I think we all need that accountability. And someone was asking me about the people you surround yourself, how important is it? And I said it's extremely important. People that hold you accountable to your word and to your dreams, to your vision, to the masterpiece that's within you that you haven't painted yet. So it was very challenging, but it was an incredible gift because then I had to go figure out who I was. I had to go figure out what I wanted, what my greatest fear was, and what I needed to heal as a part of the journey. And I eventually got into LinkedIn. Who was on LinkedIn? Who knows what LinkedIn is? Okay. So I eventually got on LinkedIn. Another mentor said, "Why don't you get on there because maybe you can find a job. Maybe you can find an opportunity." This is in 2007 and 2008 when there was about 10 million people on LinkedIn. Now I think it's a few hundred million. And I became obsessed. I became obsessed with learning about LinkedIn and figuring it out, seeing is there anyone that will connect with a bum who's in a cast, who hasn't graduated college, who has a learning disability, who's never had a real job. Is there anyone that would actually connect with me? And I found out that there were. There were people. Most of them felt sorry for me, but at least I had that angle, right? They felt sorry for me, and that was a good thing. I'll take it. They gave me some of their time. After about a year and a half of learning about LinkedIn and obsessing about trying to master this platform and add value where I could, people started reaching out saying, "Louis, can you help me? Like, your profile looks really good. Can you help me with mine?" And I started helping friends for free. And eventually, after I helped one person, he gave me $100. And I never made $100 in my life at one moment. And I was just like, "You're willing to pay me for this? This is something I've just been learning and doing because I'm enjoying it." And he said, "Absolutely. You have no idea how much this is going to help me in my business." And so I said, if one person's willing to pay me 100, maybe another sucker nice person will pay me $100 as well. Maybe I can trick another person. I wasn't sure how this worked, right? I was like, wait a minute. When I add value, I can charge for this? That's amazing. And so I found more people that wanted to pay me to help them improve their LinkedIn profile, to master it, to get leads, traffic, and sales for their business. And I was teaching them what I learned. And eventually I said, it's really hard for me to scale this. I'm a very slow learner. It takes a lot of mistakes in my life in order for me to finally realize, okay, I'm wasting my time doing the same thing over and over again. So it usually takes me a long time to learn something. And after a while of doing this one-to-one thing, I kept charging more, and I realized, I can keep charging more, but I still have to trade my time one-to-one to actually get paid. I have all this information. Why don't I just learn how to write a book, learn that skill, and just create one thing and then sell it to the world? And so what did I do? I found another teacher, another mentor who had written many books and learned from him how to write a book. And I launched my first book before I turned 25. And this was, you can clap it up. Thank you. Appreciate it. And this was in 2009. when self-publishing wasn't a thing. There was no easy upload to Amazon and like Amazon bestseller #1 within 10 minutes like everyone does today. There was no way to do that. I had to call a printer. I had to ask them, can you print this for me? Like it was a whole nother process. I wish it was a lot easier then. And I remember I was doing these LinkedIn networking events around the country at this time. I was doing one-to-one teaching. I wrote a book, and I was hosting these networking events, bringing people together. And I remember thinking to myself, this is still hard to scale. I'm selling these books one by one. I'm literally taking them to events and selling them for $10. And I was thinking, man, I have to sell a lot of books to eventually make some money. And this is a lot of work. It was great for my credibility and my brand, but it was hard to figure out how to get financially to the next level. And as I was promoting myself and teaching this and selling the books, someone reached out to me and said, Louis, can you teach LinkedIn on a live training, on a webinar? I'd never heard what a webinar was. This was in 2009. But I had been practicing public speaking for the last year and a half now. So I was getting some repetition and I was feeling more confident. And he said, I'd like you to come do a workshop online, a webinar. Everyone knows what a webinar is, right? Just so I'm aware. And teach LinkedIn to my audience. I'm going to present my audience to you. Will you teach them LinkedIn? I said, absolutely. And he said, I want you to create a course and sell a product. And then you're going to split with me the profits of this course. I said, cool, I'm down. And can you do it in the next 2 weeks? I said, yes, we'll figure it out. Now, I had no idea how to create a course. I had no idea how to do a presentation and a webinar. I had no idea how to do any of these things. I didn't know how to sell anything online. So I figured this out really quickly in a couple weeks. I'm living at my brother's place, paying $250 a month for a room. And I have this webinar coming up, and I'm terrified. And I say to my brother and his wife, I say, you guys need to leave because I'm going to present this thing. I need to be focused. I need to have time, the energy. So can you leave the house for a couple hours so I can give this presentation? They left. Now, they have a cat named Leaf Moose. Leaf Moose is probably the weirdest name for a cat I've ever heard, but that was their cat's name. And this is a little photo of Leaf Moose. Imagine the hairiest, fattest cat you can ever imagine. That's Leaf Moose, who was never happy. This cat was, no matter how much you scratched this cat, you loved it, you fed it, it was just a mean, non-happy cat. It didn't want affection. It was just like, it just did not like it. It just wanted to be left alone and be tended to but not touched, right? It did not like to be held or anything. If you held it, it was almost like it released all of its hair onto you. Have you ever been around a cat that just you hold it for a second, you're just covered in hair? Has anyone ever had that experience? This was that type of cat. So we do this webinar, this presentation, where I'm teaching LinkedIn. There's 600 people on live. I've never been in front of that big of an audience at the time, 24 years old. At this time, I'm still doing one-to-one consulting. I'm selling books one-to-one. I'm trying to figure out how to make money and get to the next level and scale this. And we get into the presentation. It's the middle of the summer. It kind of feels like probably what 2 months ago felt like here in Ohio. In the USA, it's super humid. You can't go outside without dripping sweat, or at least for me. I couldn't go outside without dripping sweat. So there was no air conditioning in my brother's house at this time. It's the middle of the summer. I am wearing like a tank top, white t-shirt. And at the time, just dripping sweat. Nervous for the presentation, but also it's just so hot. So I'm a sweaty mess. Luckily at the time in webinars, there was no video. So it was just my screen and audio. My brother and his wife leave. I'm at the table in the living room ready to give this presentation. And in walks Leaf Moose. The meanest cat. He's growling at me. I'm there alone. I'm like, get away from me. I'm trying to present, right? I'm talking to this cat. And I deliver a presentation that I can't even remember still. I just remember trying to think I need to give so much value, and then I need to try to sell this course at the end. I didn't have a course created yet. I had a PayPal link, and I said, if you guys enjoyed this content and you want more information, sign up for this PayPal link, and in 2 weeks, I'll send you an email where I'll then deliver more training on this presentation on LinkedIn. So I didn't even have anything to give people right then. I had a hope that they would get something, which I later delivered, But when I finish this presentation, now at this point, I'd taken my shirt off. Taking my shirt off because I'm literally sweating so much. I'm wearing shorts, the sweat is like the whole body is covered in sweat. Imagine this. I know, it's not fun. I finish the presentation, I say, hey guys, go check out this PayPal link, check it out and sign up for my course. You'll get it in 2 weeks. I close down the presentation of the webinar, I open up my email, and it was probably the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. Besides my girlfriend, when I met her, it's probably the most beautiful sight I'd ever seen. And on every line of my email, it said, you've received payment, you've received payment, until I could not see any more in my email. It's the greatest thing ever. $6,200 came into my PayPal account in a moment, and I'd never made $6,200 in a year. Now, imagine shirtless, sweaty, dripping Lewis at 24. And then imagine Leaf Moose. I see Leaf Moose. There's no one to celebrate with. I see Leaf Moose, and I run to Leaf Moose on the couch, and I grab him, and I say, Leaf Moose, we did it! And I'm shaking him. There's hair all over me. It's freaking out. The cat is starting to scratch me, and he gives me the worst look ever. I swear to God, he gave me this look. The Leaf Moose and me have a bond that will live forever because it was a moment where only Leaf Moose saw me, and a moment of something. It was an aha moment. Now, I'm hairy, but I'm celebrating, right? Not my own hair, the cat's hair. It just like released all of its hair onto me, this fat cat. After many years of building this business, selling the business, eventually I'm going to fast forward, selling it for 7 figures, and really figuring out in my stride in the business world over the next 4 to 5 years. There was a massive void. I hit 30 years old. I was making a ton of money. I was getting recognized in cover of magazines and winning awards and all those external things. And I was chasing more and more external validation because I hadn't answered the third question that I share with you guys. I knew what I wanted, and I was clear on taking as much action to overcome my fears and insecurities to get there. I was not afraid to take action. That wasn't what held me back. I knew what my fears were, and I was willing to go all in on the fears until they disappeared. I was willing to take action. I had that kind of athlete mindset, that mentality to overcome stuff. But there was one thing that I wasn't yet willing to do. And a lot of things started to break down in my life around 30. 30 years old was kind of a point when I was in a business partnership that went south. I was in a relationship that wasn't working out. Friendships weren't working out. And I just felt this kind of anger, resentment for life and for the world. And I was accomplishing so much on the outside world, but I didn't know why I didn't feel fulfilled. I really had no clue. And I just thought it was about everyone else, and it wasn't about me. I was just like, people don't get me, and why don't they understand how hard I work? And I was kind of blaming everyone else as opposed to looking in the mirror and taking responsibility. And that third thing that we talked about, I think is one of the hardest things to address is, what do I need to heal? What do I need to heal in my life? And it's funny because there was a 19-year-old outside right when I walked in, and Ali, the director from Seaspiracy, was talking to and said, Lewis, come over here. Can you help me answer this question? If you were 19, what's one piece of advice you would give to your 19-year-old self? And the first thing I said is like, what do you need to heal? What do you need to heal? I was talking to Hala, and she said that a lot of men in this region, not everyone, but a lot of men are told to be tough, to not express their emotions, to not look at the things that they dealt with, to not be vulnerable because that's a form of weakness. And in America, that's a similar story that young boys are told as well, that real men don't cry, that real men don't open up, that you'll never share your vulnerabilities, you'll never share and reveal your shame, your insecurities. Why would you? Because that makes you weak. You gotta be strong, you gotta be tough, you gotta handle the world. And when I turned 30, I really started to open up and realize like I need to work on the emotional side of myself. I don't know why I can't fall asleep at night. I don't know why I feel this level of kind of constant stress and anxiety. I don't know why I feel like people don't understand me. I don't know why these things are happening to me. And when I started to do a lot of therapeutic experiences and let go of things that were holding me back, that's when everything started to shift. It was a moment of peace that I never felt in my life. I always tell people there's two types of fuel that can really support us in our lives. The fuel of anger, needing to look good and prove people wrong, or the fuel of love and to lifting others up. And one of the most beautiful things that I love about the story of being here, it's my first time in this part of the world, and I went to the UAE, the pavilion at Expo 2020, and first off, I was blown away by Expo 2020. If you guys haven't been yet, I highly encourage you go. It's incredible. Was that like a music drop? Like a, yes, it's cool, like music is about to go? And when I went to the pavilion, I was moved by one thing that the whole thing blew me away, but I was moved by something I read. How many of you have been to the UAE pavilion at Expo 2020? So for the rest of you that don't, it's unbelievable. I highly recommend going. I was moved. There's like this sand, right, of the desert in the bottom of the pavilion. And there's these quotes on the sand. And one of the quotes on the sand said, 50 years ago, this was all just a dream. Here it is. We took a photo. 50 years ago, this was all just a dream. And I have gone around, we've driven around the last 3 days, and I was just blown away by what I've seen in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and here. And I was just like, this wasn't here 50 years ago? Like, what? It blew me away. 50 years ago, this was all just a dream. When I look back at my life, is it the 50th anniversary in like 2 weeks or something? Isn't that right? Is it 50th? Yeah, it's unbelievable. And when I look back at my life, if we can go to the next slide, who's ever controlling this photo. When I look back at my life, who's ever controlling the photo, if you can give me back controls, please. When I look back at my life, I think about the dreams that I had, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, to where I am now. And I think about, it was all just a dream, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was all just a dream. And when I started to do and it was amazing because there was another quote that I didn't post up here. There's another quote that talked about like something around unifying, really unifying this region. And it wouldn't have been able to be possible without unity. And I think unity really means acceptance, forgiveness, healing. That's for me, when I think of unity, I think of healing. Because you can't unify if you haven't healed. And it's hard to align yourself internally if you haven't healed. It's hard to really go after what you want and make your dreams reality if you haven't learned how to heal and integrate that healing process. And when I started to heal, for those that already know my story, I don't want to go too far into this, but I was sexually abused by a man that I did not know when I was 5 years old. And for 25 years, I held on to this pain. Because in America, I was taught that you don't share these things. You don't share weaknesses and vulnerabilities. You don't do those things. And so what did I do instead? I masked the pain. I masked the anger. I built myself up to be as big and fast and strong and accomplished as I could to prove my power, right? To prove that I'm worthy, to prove that I'm lovable, to prove that I'm enough. Because at the core was this insecurity and fear that I am not enough. And if I don't feel like I'm enough, why could anyone ever love me? Why could anyone ever be there for me? How is it even possible if I don't believe it? And so it became something that I leaned into. I leaned into sharing this story and accepting all the different insecurities, the shame, the fear that I had, and talking about it more publicly, because I never saw an example of someone that looked like me growing up talking about these things. I never saw a man who was successful in business, who was successful in their relationship, who was successful in their sports career, talk about their vulnerabilities. There was no model for me, or at least if it was out there, I never saw it. And I realized when I started to lean into that, I felt more powerful. Yes, I felt afraid, but that was one of the fears that was holding me back that I needed to go all in on. And when I think about today, I still think about every level of my life. What do I want? What is my fear? And what do I need to heal? Is there still more that I'm afraid of? Is there still more that I need to let go of and heal and integrate? And every time I go into this and answer this, I feel a sense of peace and clarity and understanding and acceptance. And it's hard to really believe you're deserving of the success you want if you don't accept who you are. And for 25 years of my life, I never accepted myself because I didn't feel like I was worthy, because I was sexually abused and went through all these different learning disabilities. So I have a call to action to everyone here. If you haven't written it down yet, I would love for you to write this down, whether get out your phone or if you have a pen and paper, and write down exactly what do I want and why do I want this thing. What is my fear and why am I afraid of this thing? And what do I need to heal? And why do I need to heal this thing? And I would love for you to just think about it, reflect on it. You don't have to share them with anyone. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. But I'd love for you to send me a message and let me know at least one of those answers. So you can send me a DM. I'm Lewis Howes on Instagram. And I'd love to connect with you over there and hear more about what you want, what your dream is. Because I think when we talk about our dreams, it starts to open up. And when we share these dreams with other people, we can start to see how those people can support us. 50 years ago, this was all a dream. But some incredible leaders came together, they unified, and they said, let's talk about this dream. And what are the action steps to making it happen? What do we need to overcome to get here? And it's been an incredible trip just being here. I'm really in awe and inspired by the vision, the unity, the drive, the innovation. It's unbelievable what I've witnessed in a few days. Putting America to shame right now with everything I've seen. So please DM me a list of your biggest fears. Every year at the end of the year, this is the perfect timing. At the end of every year, I think about what's my biggest fear that I want to overcome for next year. And what do I need to do to go all in until the fear disappears? Because that's the only way I've learned. Unless someone has a better way, please tell me. I'm a student of life. I want to know what's the better way to overcome a big fear and insecurity. Do you think your way through it? Do you analyze your way through it? Do you journal your way through it and then the fear disappears? If so, I've never learned how to do that, only through putting myself through the fear until it disappears, until it's comfortable, putting myself through that. What I've realized is I was chasing things. I was chasing the accomplishments, looking good, proving people wrong. I was chasing a lot of things that never made me feel peace, never made me feel fulfilled inside. Made me feel still like it's not enough, like I'm not enough. And so I kept chasing these things. And what I realized, when I started to figure out what I want, what my fears are, and what I need to heal, and I started to dive into the healing work, that's when I stopped chasing these things. I stopped chasing greatness, and greatness started to chase me. And it's been an incredible journey once I discovered that. I'm so grateful to be here. I thank everyone for having me here and hosting me at this festival. Thank you very much. And I don't know if I have time for a couple questions or not, but if not, I believe I'll be outside here in just a moment. So if there is time for a couple questions, I'm happy to answer, but I'm not sure where I'm being directed to right now. But again, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you sticking around to the end of the day. It means a lot to me. Thank you guys. I'll pass it back to you. Thank you. Oh, you want to do? I'll stick around if they want to. What's that? Yeah, okay, cool. My man. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. I'll do some questions. Yeah, if anyone wants to stick around, I'm happy to do questions. If you want to leave, feel free. It's a long day. If you have a question, just raise your hand really quick. Yes, what's your name? I'll repeat the question for you. What's your name?
My name is Ines.
Ines. What are you grateful for today?
Sorry?
What are you grateful for today?
Grateful. Being here actually is such a great experience for me.
Okay.
First of all, I would like to say that your girlfriend is so lucky.
I'm lucky. I'm lucky she accepts me.
Yes, a man who speaks about his girlfriend with such, I don't know. Anyway, she's lucky.
No, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Wait a minute, someone get that on video and send it to her. Quickly. No, I'm just kidding.
My question is this, talking about healing. What is the sign that I have healed action or whatever?
Yeah, well, I mean...
How do I understand that it's been healed? I might go through a journey, but when is the moment I would say, yes,
I know
that
this
is
is
done?
I know this is a taboo subject in this area of the world. At least that's what I've been told.
Okay.
That therapy is not something people do here. That's what I've been told. Maybe I'm wrong. They do, but they hide it. Someone's sharing the secrets. Okay. They do, but they hide it. That was not something that I ever wanted to do until I hit 30, until I realized, like, I'm accomplishing so much, but why do I can't sleep at night, I'm anxious, I get resentful, I get angry, like why? I'm reactive. And I started to go to these therapeutic experiences. And therapists that I work with, I'm a big believer in coaches. So you call it a therapist or call it a coach, I don't care. We have a coach for business. I had a coach as an athlete. I've interviewed the greatest athletes in the world, and I say, would you be where you're at today in your career as an athlete without great coaches? Not one of them said they would be. So I said, okay, and when they get to the top of their sports career, they hire better coaches, right? So when I transferred from sports into kind of business, life, and everything, I just said, I need great coaches in my life. I have great sports coaches. I found business coaches. In relationships, I was like, I have no clue what I'm doing because I had a troubled childhood, and these things kind of like made me more reactive and anxious in relationships. I need a relationship coach. I'm happy to admit these things. And then no one taught me how to manage my emotions. So why would I not get a coach of my thoughts and emotions? Just because I've been conditioned my whole life that that's not what you do, that's not what a man does, I had to surrender my ego and say, well, I got to figure something out because I don't feel good inside. So what do I need to do? And then I found resources. So I found a coach, therapist, whatever you want to call it. And my coach, therapist of my emotions, says that healing is not an event. It's a journey. So what you just shared, healing is not like, okay, I'm healed in this moment and it's never going to affect me ever again. It's a journey. I don't know if you've ever been through a breakup or had a loss in your family or gone through a grieving moment in your life or your career change or loss. Have you ever felt any of these losses? Of course.
Happen. Like,
So many things happen.
Yes, normal.
Is there ever a moment where you're just like, I'm okay, it's all good? Like, it's a journey.
No, the thing is, like, I was doing some meditation, and I noticed, like, some memories from my childhood came up.
Mm-hmm.
I did not think it has any effect in my life. I was like, oh, I don't even think it's there.
Right.
But when I did the meditation, it was like, oh my God, I see it like it's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, for 25 years of my life until I hit 30, and I started to open up about it, for 25 years, pretty much every single day, I thought about the moment of being sexually abused.
Okay.
Almost every day. Maybe it was a second, maybe it was a moment, maybe it was minutes. It wasn't like all day, but a vision like came in my head. And when I look back at it, it was one of the reasons I wasn't able to sleep at night. Because I didn't know how to process that event. I didn't have tools to emotionally manage it. I was told, be a man in every area of my life. So I took that tool, be a man, and just toughen up and don't show emotion and don't cry and just be a man. That's what you're supposed to do. Just suck it up. Who cares? Let it go. It's in the past. Let it go. But if we don't learn to process things, that thing will always stay with us. We will shove it down and it'll manifest in another way. Anxiety, stress, cancer, skin issues, whatever it might be. And so when I learned how to align myself with my emotions and process and integrate through years of coaching, if you want to call it coaching here, that pain and that, it kind of just it started to wash away. It started to feel like this golden light integrate through my soul and like cleanse the past. And I started to accept myself, like you said, as opposed to being upset and angry, being really grateful, and connecting the dots back to all those events and saying, well, if I wasn't sexually abused, I want to be on a mission to talk about this. And and I want to be relatable to men, 1 in 6 men who have been sexually abused in America. And I want to be able to represent and be able to show up for them. I want to be able to have compassion and empathy for people in that.
Yeah, you just said it exactly. The minute the pain ends with that memory, that means you're healed already.
Yeah, I can only speak for myself. My healing journey began when I talked about it with one person.
Yes, it started, but it
when
ended
it
at
started.
the time the pain stopped with that
The pain did
memory.
not stop. I
Okay.
felt a sense of fear, like my life was over.
Okay.
When I first opened up about it, I opened up into a room of a small group of people, and I thought my life was over. I go, no one, if they really knew this about me, why would anyone love me? Every man is going to make fun of me. No women are going to like me. My business is going to fail. Like, this was every fear I had. And the only way that I've learned how to overcome a fear is to not outthink the fear. It's to go all in on the fear until the fear disappears. And yeah, it's been a journey. And the way that I feel like healing occurs is through the consistent practice of letting go. And so for me, I realized once I started talking about it in a small group, I was still shaking when I talked about it. Like, it had power over me. And if I want to have 100% authentic power, then I can't let anything rattle me. Not because I'm this big, tough person that just can take it all on, but by just processing the emotions. Yeah, and so it took me probably 2 years until I could actually have a conversation without shaking in front of someone. That's when I realized the healing journey is evolving in a beautiful way for me. And it's not having power over me. I can talk about it because I'm not afraid of it anymore. It was that act consistently. So does that answer the question? Awesome. But I'm going to have you send a video to my girlfriend. Yes. Anyone else? Yes. In the back here. Go ahead and share what your name is. Real quick.
My name is Yusuf.
Yusuf.
Yes.
Tell me one thing you're grateful for.
I'm grateful for seeing you today.
My man. And in 30 seconds or less, what's your question?
My question is, after I saw Darman's video speaking of your story and how was your childhood bad, and then you became an amazing motivational speaker, which I really liked about you. And I watched you and watched Darman and watched Jay Shetty's video. So, like, you three became my idols. And I wanted to be also a motivational speaker. So I started an Instagram account of motivation. But I want to improve. So can you give me some tips to how to improve my motivation account and how to become a famous motivation speaker and speak in front of millions of people without shaking like I'm right now?
I think I go back to, I don't know if there's really more that I could share except for what is you want and why do you want it? You know, being a famous motivational speaker, why? I never wanted to be a motivational speaker or a speaker. I did it because I was afraid of it. And I knew that I had a mission to serve people, and that if I didn't overcome this fear, I would not be able to serve at the level that my inner voice was telling me I needed to do. So I would just ask you, not that there's anything wrong with wanting to become a famous motivational speaker, I would just answer the question, what do I want and why do I want it? What is my fear? And what do I need to do to overcome that fear? And what do I need to heal? And why do I need to heal that thing? I'm telling you, if you can answer those things authentically, it will just support you on your journey. So that's what I would start with. There's no other, you can join Toastmasters, you can do all these other actions, but really get clear why first, and then act.
You know, I want to be a motivation speaker because when I saw you guys, I saw you changing people's lives. So I really would like to change people's lives to better.
That's great, man. Well, do it. Go for it. Great, man. Yusuf. Yes, sir. Right here. And then you next. And then you over here. I saw 3 hands, so. And I saw you give a question earlier, right? Or no?
Yeah,
So
I
you gotta
gave
be
a
quick.
question.
You
Yeah,
gotta be
just a quick
Okay,
question.
what's your name?
My name is Saeed Al-Balushi.
Syed?
Saeed Al-Balushi.
Okay, I'll let you say it.
No, just Saeed.
Saeed.
Yeah.
Okay, and what are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful being like by waking up this morning on my leg.
Okay, cool. And in 30 seconds or less, what's your question?
I see you are talking about vulnerability.
Yes.
Man, I think it's someone wants to be vulnerable, you should have a heart of the lion to speak in front of people. But just I want to know the steps. Of course, there is a step you took in order to be vulnerable.
I mean,
Like,
here's what worked for me. I don't recommend this. I shared my biggest shame in front of a group of people. I don't think everyone should do that. I think you should share it with a person who will listen to you in confidence and who will accept you and love you no matter what you say. And so this was a fear for mine because I said this and I talked about being sexually abused in front of a small group. And then I said after this event, I go, how am I going to tell my family? You know, my mom dropped me off at the babysitter's, and it was a 17, 18-year-old man who sexually abused me at the babysitter's house. How is she going to feel? How much pain is that going to cause her? So I had to wrap my head around this. Not putting something onto someone, but creating an experience where there can be shared understanding and healing. And so I remember thinking, how do I start to tell my friends and family? Because this group of strangers that I just shared this with, I don't really know them, whatever. If they don't like me, then okay, you know, they're not in my life. But my friends and family, if they really knew who I was, or the thing I was afraid of or ashamed of, would they actually still accept and love me? That was a huge fear. Again, going back to the doubt diagram, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. And so at the time, I'm 30 years old when this process began, this healing journey began. At the time, I reached out to a coach/therapist friend, and I said, what should I do? I have no idea how to continue the healing journey because I'm so afraid of them not accepting me and loving me. At the end of the day, we want to be loved and accepted for who we are, not our accomplishments, but for who we are. And she gave me an incredible gift, a way to set up the context for becoming more vulnerable and feeling safe. She said, I want you to talk to each one of your family members and ask them this question first. And if they don't answer the question to your liking, then don't tell them and don't be vulnerable. I said, great, well, what's the question? She said, ask them this, is there anything that I could ever say or do that would make you not love me? And so I said, okay, I'm going to call each one of them, and I'm going to have a conversation, and I'm going to ask them this. You know, I'm going to set up the context first. Hey, I want to talk to you about something that's important to me. And I'm really afraid to talk about it. I'm really unsure about this, but I want to talk to you because it's really important to me. But I have a question first. Is there anything I could ever say or do that would make you not love me? And I started calling my family one by one, and they're all like, there's nothing you could ever say or do that would make me not love you. So it gave me permission to step into that vulnerability. So that was the process that I used. So I'm not sure what the thing that is you need to be more vulnerable about or what has happened in your past that you're afraid of or ashamed of. But that shame is, for me, suffering. Holding on to shame is suffering. And figuring out how to be vulnerable is the pathway to peace and freedom, from my experience. I can look big and strong, and I could beat up the best of them in the world. When I was playing football and working out all day, I had no fear to feel physical pain. I looked for fights. I wanted people to try to shove me because I had this frustration inside of me. I wanted to take it out on people because I didn't know how to process emotions. So I looked for ways to be big and tough and strong, to prove my manliness. And it worked. It got me results. But it left me feeling empty inside. It left me feeling still like, what is missing? Why am I not feeling peace? And it wasn't until vulnerability came into my life when it was like, this is one of the greatest gifts ever. Because I feel peace, I feel fulfilled, and I have a sustainable, renewable energy, which I feel like is what this part of the world is trying to create, the sustainable, renewable, unifying energy, not I have all the answers, don't mess with me. So hopefully that helps you with that. Yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Yes. Yes. What is your name? what are you grateful for today? And then in 30 seconds or less, what's your question?
Hi, my
You might
name
have to hold it close to you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mariam. I'm just grateful for being alive today, and alhamdulillah. So basically, I want to ask you now, as an athlete, I'm interested in sports nutrition a lot. Okay, so as an athlete, I know that you need to develop a specific mindset to help you overcome your fear, especially when you're practicing. You said it's a process of like constantly failing and just working to. I don't know, like making your like. I don't know how to explain it. It's just
What's the question?
the question is, okay, as an athlete,
Yes.
what helped you get into that strong mindset that helped you achieve what you have achieved today?
What helped me get into a strong mindset to do what?
Yes, like how did you build the mental toughness to,
I got clear on what I wanted,
yeah?
and that clarity gave me mental toughness. If I'm not clear on what I want, like I was so driven by my clarity, driven by my dreams. I feel like, again, this place has been driven by the dreams of creating something magical in 50 years, and it's like just getting started, right? So for me, I was driven by a greater future. I was driven by a dream that I had. And so I got clear on that dream, and I was willing to do anything to make the dream come true because I knew if I didn't at least go for it, I wouldn't be able to look myself in the mirror without being mad and upset about myself. I was okay with failure. I was okay with not accomplishing my goals. I was not okay with allowing something inside of me to be stuffed and buried in a graveyard one day. That's what I was not okay with. So the clarity of my dreams guided me. It wasn't like this perfect route that got me there, but it guided me to get there. And then figuring out, well, how can I be fulfilled and happy and joyful when life happens, when I'm, failing, because it's not all going to be perfect. That's when I got into the fear side of thing and said, I just don't want to suffer anymore. So how can I be okay and accept myself through that and then the healing? So it's getting clarity first and seeing a greater future for yourself within the sports or whatever that is, which allowed me, and I think that's what allowed this part of the world, to see something 50 years out. I don't know if they dreamed this. I have no idea if this is what they originally dreamed, but it's incredible what they've created. You guys have created. I mean, it's incredible.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you. Well, last one. There was another hand over here, I think. Over here. Okay. Well, these final two. One here, then one here, then they're telling me I gotta leave.
Hello.
Okay.
Hi, Luz. Thank you so much for...
What's your name? What are you grateful for? And in 30 seconds. Question.
My name is Katerina. I'm grateful for my friends who I met on the ones and they supported through my journey. Today I stepped in the fear of presenting myself, and today is the second time I'm stepping into my fear. And a few weeks ago, I was sending my message to you in LinkedIn, and you answered. You always engage your audience. So anyone have questions, Lewis always answers or try to.
Not always, I try.
Try. No.
I'm going to offend you if I don't reply to you.
No, I said
I did tell you to send me a
tried.
DM, but I don't always reply.
Yes, but you tried. I mean, you make an effort.
I tried,
You do genuinely make an effort.
I'm a flawed human being. You tell my girlfriend this, yes. What's your question? They're telling me I got to go.
My
so I
question
apologize.
is, as entrepreneur, we all, time after time, we can burn out. How would you prevent from burning out or kind of keeping momentum?
I think burnout is okay. It's if your dream is not aligned, if you haven't answered this question, what do I want and why do I want it, then you're going to get burned out because you're not clear on what you want. And if you feel burnt out from a dream, I played baseball for most of my life. I played baseball for most of my life until my senior year of high school. I felt burnt out. It wasn't a part of my dream anymore. It was a dream until it wasn't. I did it for as far as I wanted to go, and then I was like, it's not what I want anymore. I felt burnt out, and I shifted it towards something else. So I think you got to ask yourself, why do I want this? What do I want, and why do I want it? And at some point, your dreams may evolve into something else, and that's cool as well. I think Anas said earlier that like your dreams can shift and it's okay. I think he said that on the screen. Is that right? Do you have that? Yeah. I felt that as well. So hopefully,
No, not in terms of the shifting the dream, but sometimes you can.
you're talking about feeling overwhelmed and burnt out.
Yes, you're getting burned out. Not like give up your dream, which is the worst thing that can happen to you, but when you're on the journey, you know your purpose, you're clear.
For
But
me, it comes down to fun. Are you having fun in the process? Are you just working and grinding and hustling and putting in 16-hour days over and over? I heard someone on a panel earlier talking about like grinding and hustling. Yes, that will build your momentum, but that's not sustainable energy. That's not renewable, sustainable energy, just the consistent grind and hustle. It's why I try to act like a child. I try to be playful. I salsa dance. I do things that are fun and enjoyable. I take time for my joy as well. So I just ask yourself, are you doing things every day to bring joy to your life and fun in the process? Because it will be challenging and grinding at times, but bring that joy, bring that fun. So hopefully that answers the question. I apologize, guys. I got to leave. They're kicking me out. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you.